All right.
And we are live. Large Ray, how are you?
Hello there.
How are you doing
It's nice.
today?
I'm doing great. It's nice to sort of meet you on
Yeah, we actually
on
haven't talked
video.
before,
No.
other than the first 10 minutes of chit chatting here a little bit. So to get right on into this, Large Ray, can you just tell me a little bit about who you are? Because I honestly just don't know.
Don't know. I know that's you shouldn't know. You don't have to know. It'd be weird if you did know. So I guess the only way to explain it is, and it's nothing that significant or exciting. Back in the '80s, when freestyle, I guess, first started, um, I would go to a lot of contests. The contests back in the day were the first day was flatland, second day was what we just called ramps,
Mm-hmm.
and I unfortunately couldn't do either one very well. But I had a friend, Gary Pollock, who was like he was the shit. He was like sponsored, getting paid when he was like 14 years old. So I just basically hung out with him, and I'd show up at contests. And at one point, I was getting thrown out of the contest because I was just goofing around. And my friend's manager signed me up for the contest and said, "You're gonna ride today." And I was like,
Nice.
"Well, I really don't have many tricks." And he's like, "Just go out and do your best." And there were 79 riders, and I got 78th. So that was like me getting first place. And then from there, I just started to enter contests, learned a few more tricks. Then got then I was friends with all the people that wrote and took photos for the magazines. And then so they would just like put me in magazines. So I got a lot of recognition just for being some big fat dude that went to contests and wrote a little bit. And then as years go on, the legend builds and builds and builds. But that's the gist of it. You know what I mean? I just went to every contest, met everybody, knew everybody, was friends with everybody, and in the process had one of the best childhoods you could have, growing up in the '80s with legends like Matt Hoffman, Dennis McCoy, anyone else that was, big back then.
That's pretty amazing, man. So, like, how did that very first spark of BMX happen, even for you?
Uh, Gosh, I mean, the first spark is just when you're a kid and you're on your bike is your vessel. It's like
Yeah.
every other kid has a story. You get on your bike, go places, and then that one day you're riding around and these kids have a dirt jump, and you're like, "What's a dirt jump?" And then they're like, "Well, you jump, blah blah blah." And then we had fields in the back of my neighborhood that was a track. Dudes made a track like it was probably like 1981. So it's like you can meet up with your friends, ride around this BMX track that they made in the woods, and that's where my whole where I realized bikes were going to be more than just transportation. It's a lifestyle, and it's where you get all your friends. Basically, was through that. So it's pretty awesome.
Nice. So, like, before I keep going with the story, Dave Norrie says, "You did so much for the scene. We are all better people because of your shenanigans."
Yeah, Dave just loves me, and he wants me to sound like I'm very important, but
Dave's just like one of the nicest people ever, too.
he is. Yeah, he's the best ambassador for BMX, for BMX freestyle or flatland, whatever. He's so dedicated. He's so good. He's professional. He's the nicest guy in the world. He's really good. And I
Yeah,
pick on him all the time. I love picking on him. That's all I do is rough him up.
that's funny. So, do you remember, like, the first time you went somewhere notable and met notable people in BMX?
It was probably Dave Norrie. It was probably I went to a horror show in 1985. Um, we had BMX magazines, and um, there was a Mountain Dew commercial, and it had Ron Wilkerson and R.L. Osborne and all these guys, and they were all doing tricks. Eddie Fiol was on it, and then that commercial was on MTV all the time. And then it's like, hey, there's going to be the horror shows coming here tomorrow, so we showed up, and just the uniforms the guys had, the blue ramp, the sound system, the cool music, and it was Dave Norrie and Ron Wilkerson, and they did a show. And once I saw that, I was just like, this is the coolest thing in the world. Just like all the kids that were there, the show, the tricks, just the whole vibe of it. It was like immediately, it's like, this is what I'm going to do. Maybe not for the rest of my life, but I am hanging out with this crew, and this is what we're going to do. This is fun. You know, it
Yeah.
was way more fun than all the activities I did when I was a kid. Like when you're a kid, you football, baseball, basketball, all that stuff. What you do like organized sports, which is great. But this was on a level where it was way more exciting, and you could dictate where you went, what you did, who you hung out with. There were no rules. So if you wanted to go off and do something else, or you wanted to try something else, there was no one there to say, "Hey, you can't do that." You know, where
Yeah.
all the other sports, it's like, here's what you have to do, and you got to do it. With freestyle and BMX, you could just do whatever, and that's why you met so many characters, because it was people that just wanted to completely just do what they wanted to do.
Oh yeah, man. I've had pushback towards like being parents pressuring people into organized sports my whole entire BMX life, because I recognized early on too, it was like these organized sports, once you leave high school, unless you're like really lucky and you're really good and you can do it in college, most of the time this stuff just kind of fades away. But BMX is
Yeah,
literally can last your entire life.
yeah,
So how old were
without
you
a doubt.
when like all of that was happening?
Um, I mean, like the real stuff where I would go to contests and there were like magazines involved and stuff like that was probably not anywhere between 80, probably 85. It started 85, 86. That's when the scene for my generation was like, it was big. There was your whole life was trying to get up enough money to go to a contest, and then you go to a contest and some dude would just have a two minute run. You were like living for that 2 minute run, and but so that's when, the 80s is when it was all going down for old people like me.
Well, how old were you at the time though?
It was like I was like 15 or 16,
Nice.
and just, we were traveling around the United States. I just, I've had a full-time job since I was 12, so I was like working. Basically, I was working at Burger King Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is when we would go to contests or something. So, um, but we traveled, like we got on planes when we were 16 years old to go to Texas. And I remember my dad dropping me off at the airport, and he's like, "Well, like, who's your chaperone? Who's gonna be?" And we're just like, "We're just going," and we had like $12 in our pocket, and we're just going to Texas for the weekend. So, um, it was pretty fun, pretty risky.
No doubt the world was a different place back then where
It
you could like
was,
actually do that and come back and be okay.
yeah.
Man,
Yeah, we
that's
we
wild.
got on a plane. I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have any ID. I just like had my ticket. Like, here you go. You get on the plane, and then you're just on your own.
Oh my
It was
gosh,
pretty
what do
pretty
you guys
crazy.
do from there?
Well, actually, we just followed Gary around. My friend Gary Pollock, he was sponsored, so he'd have a hotel room. So we would just like stay in his hotel room, eat whatever scraps his Team GT didn't eat, and then somehow get a ride back to the airport on Monday morning. Like we learned how to survive on a little bit of stealing, a lot of lying on how to get into places, and just it's just what you did when you were a kid.
Yeah, well, no, I don't. Because that's not what I did.
Well,
I want to learn more. Like, so how do things evolve with this?
um, I mean, we just things evolve in what way? Like how? Like,
Like, how do they keep progressing and you keep staying involved with BMX? I mean, you mentioned that you got
oh
kind of
yeah,
a lot of coverage in magazines. Like, how does that?
yeah. I guess what it was is I would go to contests, and like I said, my friend's manager signed me up. This guy Harold McGuther was Gary's manager, and he's a legend in the BMX world, like a total legend. And he worked for CW, then GT, and then Mongoose as like the manager, and then he did a lot of other stuff. But so I would go to the contests, and I didn't have a lot of tricks. So I one contest I put smoke bombs on my bike,
Mm-hmm.
and because if you don't have a lot of tricks, it's like, go out and just do some goofy stuff. But then, so in the magazines, of course, they're going to be like, well, there's this really large teenager, and he had smoke bombs on his bike. And the thing is, I didn't have a uniform. Like back then, everybody wore a uniform. And I didn't have a uniform. They didn't even make a uniform that even came close to fitting me. So I just wore like painter's pants, a Led Zeppelin T-shirt, a flannel shirt, and I lit a smoke bomb and went out and rode. And I don't even know what place I got, but I was in like 3 different magazines for it. So just being goofy like that, I would just wind up getting in magazines. And then a friend of mine, Carl Roth, became the editor of BMX Plus, and I think he put me in every issue. Like in the beginning, there'd be like the stuff in the beginning, and you just have a picture of me doing something. So, but then like kids remember that, because now I'll go to a thing, like I'll go to some event now, and kids will be like, "Oh my God, it's Large Array! Like you were in every magazine when I was a kid." So you're kind of like, then you become this BMX legend, even though you weren't really back in the day a legend. You know what I mean? So it's like it's pretty funny.
I would argue that we don't get to decide if we're a legend, and I don't think you. I think other people decided you're a legend, and that makes you a BMX legend.
Yeah, that's true.
That's so sick. So, so like another thing that came up through there's catch me up to speed between that and when you were the coach on MTV's Made Show. Like, what happened between what we're talking about now and that?
Yeah. So by like 1992 or 3, the world of freestyle, and that's what we called it back then, freestyle. That was dead. The AFA, American Freestyle Association, that went under. There are no more contests. And then Matt Hoffman basically, now this is my version of what I think happened, or the way I saw it, is BMX was dead. There were no more contests. There were no more gatherings. There was just nothing going on. And in York, Pennsylvania, the Plywood Hoods started having the York Jam in like 91, where they took what the best part of a contest was usually the stuff before and after in the parking lot, where everybody would just dick around and have fun. So they took that part of it and made an event where they just went to a parking lot every year. And, before like the internet and everything, they just basically just maybe took an ad out in the magazine. I don't even remember how they did it, but so people were doing that. And then Matt Hoffman started having contests. He had, I don't know if it was back then, it was called the B3 series, but Matt was like, there's still 1 million people out here that ride. There's just no money in it anymore. Well, shit, I'm going to go out and make bikes and have contests. And so Matt kept it alive for everybody. And then the X Games started. And then when the X Games started, my friends and I were like, hey, man, like, I was watching the X Games, and I swear to God, I saw little Dave Mirra. I saw Rick Thorne, and we're like, Dennis is old. Dennis was like 26 or something. We're like, Dennis is ancient. He's 26 years old, and he did a 540. Like, what's he thinking? And we're like, Matt Hoffman's there. And like, so like we knew like there were like 5 or 6 people, like Steve Swope. We're like, wow, these guys are still doing it. And to us, it was like, these guys were in their early 20s, but we were thinking they were old because when we were kids, the guys that were good were like these like young kids. So then my friends and I, we just started we started just taking off work and going out to the X Games because our friends were there. And then, Matt ran the X Games basically. So we meet up with Matt. We're like, hey, can we get some passes? And he'd give us some passes. And like, here's a pass from the Gravity Games, where we would go and get these passes. Our friend Kenan Harkin worked for NBC.
Yeah.
And that was the Gravity Games. And then, so we go to the Gravity Games, and then we met all the new guys. So the new guys would be like, who are these old dudes talking to, how do these guys know like Matt and Dave and Rick Thorne and Dennis and all this stuff? So then we kind of got back into it, but not back into it riding. I mean, my friends still ride. I don't ride at all. My friends would still ride back then and do stuff. And then, so we just stayed involved in all that kind of stuff. And then one day in 2003, I got a phone call. I was at Woodward East, and I get a phone call from a number in Manhattan, and I'm like, what's this? And it's this lady saying, hi, this is Tori from MTV. We saw a video of you riding a bike, and we want you to be a coach for this girl. please give me a call. And so we never heard of the Made Show or anything. And my friend Mark Eaton, he did a little short video called "Ramp Up the John."
Yeah.
The word John is used in Philadelphia a lot for anything's a John. So he made this video, "Ramp Up the John," and the people at MTV saw this video and they said, "Hey, we want that dude that's wearing this coat." I had this big puffy like blue coat on, and they called me and they said, "Would you want to be a coach for this girl to ride BMX?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm 30 years old. I haven't ridden a bike in like 20 years. I can barely, jump off a curb. I'm probably not your dude. So they came to my house, and at the time I just gotten on eBay, and I bought every bike I didn't have when I was a kid. So in my living room, I had like 35 full BMX bikes just hanging up. I was like, I looked like a little kid, but I had all this shit, all these bikes. And the producer came in, and I just started talking all this shit. I started making fun of her, and she's like videotaping all the bikes and asking me all these questions. And the more I told her I didn't want to do it and it wasn't going to work and that she was wasting her time, and I just was giving her shit. I mean, I was being in a very nice way. I was just like being funny, but I was being kind of rude. And she ate it up, and then she was like, "Hey, would you be the coach for this girl?" And I was like, "If you really want me to." And then I found out as we were filming, when we were filming, she knew who Van Homan was, and she knew who this dude was and this dude was. I'm like, "How do you know all these dudes?" And she goes, "Oh, I interviewed all these guys for the coaching job." I'm like, "You interviewed Van Homan, but you picked me?" She's like, "Well, you can talk a lot of shit and you're silly, so you'd be perfect for it." And so then that's when the Made Show happened, and that was 2003, and then that was like crazy because back then, social media wasn't what it was like it is today, and MTV, every kid watched MTV.
I watched that.
Yeah. So I mean that. Like I couldn't go anywhere. Like my friends and I would be, just going to Starbucks, and people would be like, "Oh my God, you're the dude from the Made Show." So for about a year and a half, everywhere I went, I got recognized, and that was fun. It was definitely fun going places and being recognized.
That's so crazy. So
Yeah.
So like, was there anything behind the scenes with the show that happened that was like, because obviously, how was it, a 30-minute or an hour-long episode of that?
It's an hour-long show. Like with commercials, it's like 42, maybe 43 minutes long or something like that.
So,
but
43-minute show, there's a whole lot more that goes into it than just that. So like,
yeah.
Let's have that conversation.
Yeah, that part was crazy. They filmed probably for like 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And they had, I think it was 140 minutes, or no, 140 hours of footage that they had to break down into like, say, 43 minutes. And so after we filmed the show, I would go to Manhattan, and they'd be they'd be editing the show. And like I'd go to my friend Mark Eaton's house, and he'd be editing like a commercial or something. He's got all this crazy equipment. And I went to the edit in Manhattan, and it's like, it looked like a dungeon. It looked like a dump. And I'm like, this is what MTV uses for their shit. So it was pretty crazy. But we had so much footage, and like the whole show is like, it's written up. Like you have a script. Like everyone thinks it's like, it's all real. And it's as written up as like an episode of Friends. They're like, you're the coach, here's the girl, she's going to get in a fight with her friends, she's going to dump her boyfriend, or her boyfriend's going to dump her, she's going to have, her friends are going to leave her, she's going to have problems in school, then you're going to quit, and then she's going to come back, and then you're going to, so like they write it all up. So that part about it was pretty lame. But then the best part was the girl actually did a backflip. Like she had never ridden a bike before, and in 6 weeks she learned how to do. I mean, she did a backflip on the resi. Like she went from like the roll in to where you do the foam, and she just kind of crossed over, and she fully hucked the backflip. Like it was crazy. So when she did that, and then they premiered the show, they played that episode 3 or 4 times a day for like a month. So like anytime you put the TV on, it was that episode. and it was crazy. But I mean, we went the one thing, the thing why it worked out so well is when they were like, okay, you have to, like, my job was to, I had to take her places and do stuff, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, I got to make it interesting. So luckily, Little Devil was in King of Prussia, and that's where I lived, King of Prussia. And Little Devil, you could ride. I mean, it was like a 40-second sprint across a field to get to like Little Devil. So the guy that owns Little Devil, Derek, I've known him for years. He's an awesome dude.
Oh
And I
yeah.
was like, hey, we're gonna bring the girl there and get all her supplies and all her shit. So that was great in the show. And then she was gonna go on her for she was a senior, so she was like, oh, for senior week we're gonna go to wherever. And I'm like, well, we're going to Mirra's house. And she's like, and that was the only real part in the show that was real, where she ditched her friends and we went to Mirra's house for a couple days instead of her going there. And then and I didn't realize till after or halfway through, they told me, and MTV lies a lot to you. They don't tell you the truth with a lot of shit. I thought she was 18. And then halfway through, they were like, oh, by the way, you're going to have to be her legal guardian when you go to North Carolina. And I'm like, why? She's 18. They're like, she's not 18 yet. She's 18-ish. She's like 17 and 3/4 or something. So that was kind of, I felt like, I was like, man, I'm like, I don't know, she's 17. And we were like 32-year-old like nitwits, you know, just taking her out to Mirra's house and getting all hammered up and riding motorcycles and being a goofball. So, but it all worked out. You know, it was cool.
That is wild. I mean, I watched that episode, but I watched it before I ever rode BMX. Like, I was a kid watching that, and I vaguely remember different parts of it. But after it was all said and done, how'd you feel about the finished thing versus the experience of it?
Oh, it came out great, I thought. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that if I always wondered if you could have got the footage and gave it to somebody to do a show on HBO, it would have been even better because it was completely adult. Like there was nothing like they had to edit out so much stuff. I mean, we took the girl to a strip club. We did, and that made it in the show. That totally made it in the show, but that was fake. Like we pretend to go to, like, we went to a strip club. It was actually pretty cool because I know a guy here in town who's a lawyer, and he was like, and I was talking to him about the show, and he's like, hey, I can get Delilah's Den. That's like the big strip club in Philly. He goes, I'm going to go there and see if I can work a deal. And what it was is he got them to pay me $5,000. And the deal was I had to get their logo, Delilah's, on TV. And so Delilah's was like, okay, you can film here for 2 hours, and you can have open bar with 20 of your friends for 4 hours. So I rolled in there with 20 friends. I brought $1,000, and we videoed for 2 hours. And when that was all done, like weeks later, when I would go to the edit, one of the guys pulled me aside and he's like, hey man, he's like, I was just editing all the strip club footage, and I'm gonna make a little tape and send it to my friend who works at HBO because this is some funny shit. He's like, this is crazy, and there's like a lot of stuff going on here that they'd be interested in looking at. There was so much stuff that we did that had to get edited out, you know, to be on. I mean, the show was basically made for like 12 to 14-year-old girls, you know.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff had to get taken out, but we definitely had fun. Like it was, and it just like that whole thing just like fell into our lap, you know. And then my friends and I, you know, we went from just like going to Woodward every couple of months to then doing the show, and then we were a big deal. Then we'd go to the Gravity Games, and everyone knew who we were. Like everybody knew who we were. We'd be walking around, and we'd be as well known as the riders because we're the dudes that were the coaches for this girl. So that was totally fun.
That is incredible. What a story. So like, do you have, I mean, I feel like at that point in time, MTV was pretty closely related with like action sports and stuff too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They had all kinds of stuff back then.
I just wonder how that came to be.
What came to be, like
just,
how the
culture of MTV kind of intertwining with action sports a little bit at that time.
Oh yeah, I guess because of the age thing. I mean, like it was like, you know, kids that kids that watched MTV, like MTV came out when I was a kid, and then by the time like then by in the 2000s, like they never played videos, and they just had parties. You know, it was like they like we're down in Cancun with Pauly Shore, and then they would do. Then I guess between like the X Games and stuff like that, they just started getting into like the action sports stuff, I guess, you know. And I think because there were things on MTV where they had, I swear they had some type of like little events. I'm not sure.
Well, I
I don't
mean,
remember.
when I talked to TJ, he talked about them having some type of thing in his backyard for MTV.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So
yeah. He has those. Yeah, he has those dirt jumps, and they probably had a thing where they had probably like a DJ. Yeah, they did. They
the
did have
Sports and
they had like
Music
a contest.
Festival,
Yeah,
that's what it was.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think they'd even have stuff in Vegas sometimes about like that kind of stuff. I forget. I forget exactly. The reason I forget there was so much going on back then. There was so much going on with action sports and the gravity games, the X Games, all that stuff. There's just so much of it. It's crazy.
That is crazy, man. It's just all these conversations like this just always come back to the same thing for me, and that is just, all right, how do we get back there? Like, how do we make this kind of stuff happen again?
Yeah. Well, and stuff does happen again. Like stuff, like skateboarding died in like the 80s and then came back in the 90s. Like BMX died in the early 90s and then it came back. And then I mean stuff comes back, so
Mm-hmm.
and now with the internet and social media, you can the way that everything's so instant, like this right now, it's live on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like back when I was a kid, if there was a contest in September, you'd have to wait till December or January to find out who won the contest.
Yes,
It's crazy.
It's definitely very crazy. So, going back to this whole MTV Made thing, did you have any kind of contact with the girl from the show? When was the last time?
Oh yeah, that's my friend Warren's job. He loves to stay in contact with people. We definitely, like, after it happened, she graduated and went to Penn State, and then we'd go to Woodward, and Woodward and Penn State are right near each other. So whenever we went to Woodward, we'd meet up with her. She'd get her bike and ride a little bit, and then we are still. I mean, we still text her, like me, Warren, and Gary. We're still like on a group text, and like when it's her birthday, we'll send her a text. Every year, she sends me a Christmas card with her husband and 3 kids. So she's like I still look at her as that little girl Chrissy that was riding, but here she's like, her and her husband are like doctors, and they got kids, and they live in Boston, and it's just crazy. So yeah, we haven't physically seen her in probably 15 years, maybe, but actually this August is the 20th anniversary of that show, so we want to try and meet up and all get together, because like we still, there's a lot of people that were on the show that like Alan Cook was on it, and there's just a lot of riders that were on it, and we thought it'd be cool to either. I mean, if we don't all meet up, we could at least all just do like a FaceTime, big old group FaceTime thing and talk.
Just record it and put it on the internet, because that would be amazing.
We could have you do it. You could organize it. What do you think
of
that?
Let's go. Let's do it. Let's put it on the calendar.
I'll give you. Yeah, put it on the calendar. I know it started. It was August. The show came out August 2nd of 2003. I know that because it's my brother's birthday. I told him that was his birthday present. He just looked at me. My brother's not that big into BMX. I'm like, Eric, I got a big present for you today at 12 o'clock. Put on MTV. And he's like, why? I'm like, that thing I've been doing? Well, I dedicated the show to you. He's like, what are you talking about? So,
thanks, dude.
he's not into BMX at all. He's not into anything I do, just because that's how older brothers are. He's just like, what do you like? I mean, my brother is just like, dude, what are you doing riding these bikes? Like when we were kids, he was just like, you should be playing football. You're like 9'1" and 700 pounds. You should be out on the football field killing people. And I was like, football's really not that fun. I'll watch it. I love watching football. Go Eagles. But I'm not very athletic.
Yeah.
And and that moved on to my BMX career. I wasn't very athletic, but I still got the job done when I had to.
Where you're like, hey, I'm gonna go not play football and go hang out with some of the biggest legends in the
Yeah,
entire culture of people.
hell yeah.
That's yeah. It would be really sick though if you guys, when you talk, did something just to talk about maybe the experience or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, no. I'm telling you, let's do it. We could do in sometime in August when it's the 20th anniversary. We can put you in charge of the 20th
Let's do
anniversary
it.
show live. Yeah,
Let's.
without a doubt, without a doubt.
It's funny you mentioned August 2003. That's literally 3 years before I even started riding.
What? What are you, like 12? Holy cow!
I mean,
You're a
no,
little kid.
I'm 29.
Oh, 29. I remember 29 was a good year. That's so long. I'd pay money to be 29. I'd pay money to be 39.
I think a lot of people would pay money for that. I think that's
Yeah,
an entire industry in the world.
yeah.
So, were you involved with any other MTV stuff after that?
No, they did a show. They did one show called Bumped, Bruised, and something where they had like the top 20 action sports moments, and Kristen's backflip was like number like 6 or something. So that was pretty much it. That was the only thing we did
Gotcha.
after that. And then like MTV after that, like they I thought sort of like after it happened, like they had other things, like they were like, hey, do you want to do this, do you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to do it, but they don't pay you anything. Like
Mm-hmm.
MTV wouldn't pay you money. They're just like, oh, you'll be a superstar. And I'm like, well, superstars don't, that doesn't pay anything. So then that stuff just never happened.
Wow, it sounds like today. Things are
Yeah.
still like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. They want to, like a place like MTV, they have a gazillion dollars, but they didn't want to pay the person they wanted to host a show. They just want you to show up and maybe give you, $40 and then send you on your way. So.
Crazy. So what happens after the Made show? I mean, this was, you said 2003.
Yeah, 2003. I mean, it played for a couple years, and then that was pretty much it. And then by that time, everything was YouTube. Like if you wanted to see something,
Mm-hmm.
everything was on YouTube. There weren't many, like even now, like today, kids don't watch TV.
Right.
Like kids literally don't watch TV. Like my son, I have a 13-year-old, and he'll look at YouTube all day on his phone. We have a TV that has YouTube. You can put it on there, and he won't. He just watches it on his phone.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't. There's no like, hey, I got to get up early to watch whatever show, because now everything's just right there.
Right. But as far as like what you were up to after the show.
What I was up to, just back to life, just back to working. I got married in 2006.
Yeah.
Did we get married in 2006? Yeah, 2000. Yeah, 2006.
Oh,
I got
God.
married, and then, but we still me and like my core group of friends. We still always went to. We'd go to Woodward East. We'd go to Woodward West. We'd make numerous trips to Greenville. Like every year, we'd go. Starting by around like I guess like 2001, 2000 or 2001 is when Dave got his big house in Greenville. Like he'd lived in Greenville since 94, maybe 95. And then he got this big house built, and then he kind of reconnected with our friend Gary. Gary was the guy I said was the superstar when we were kids, Gary Pollock. And Gary Pollock and Dave were on GT together back in like 91,
Mm-hmm.
91, 92. So Dave was like the little kid, and Gary was like the seasoned, pro or whatever. And then when we started going to Woodward, we'd run into Dave, and then he was like, "Oh my God, hey, there's Gary." And then we started going to Greenville, and that was a whole nother experience. That was great because we go to Greenville. Dave's this like huge superstar, and we knew Dave when he was like 12. And then we get to Greenville, and the scene there was so like, it was unbelievable. Just like 20 legit pros just like on a Thursday afternoon, just riding at Dave's warehouse and then going out at night. And it was awesome, like, because for us, we just totally got to relive our youth. You know what I mean? And and we were with way cooler people. You know what I mean? It was like,
Mm-hmm.
it was so much fun. So we'd go to Greenville. Gosh, I think sometimes we'd go 4 times a year. And we just go and hang out. We would just pick random days to go there and just go there and ride. And I mean, I didn't ride at all, but my friends would, they'd be 30 some years old with the high seat posts showing up at Dave's ramp doing, or Dave's warehouse. And, Warren would be busting out decade jumps at 35 years old. And they'd be like, who are these dudes riding? Like no one knew who we were. They were just like, Dave's got these old men that are here and they're riding and they're funny as shit. They're picking on Dave left and right because we didn't give Dave a pass. Once he became a superstar, we still just picked on him like he was when he was 12. Because Dave was a ball buster when we were kids. When he was 12 and we were 17, 18, we would rough him up and he'd give it right back. He didn't back down, and that's what we really liked about him when we were kids. Is he was really good, but he was funny as shit, man.
Yeah.
Totally funny.
And I guess now would be as good a time as ever. I mean, this whole entire thing we're doing right now spawned from Stoney, old fat guy BMX, he's in the chat right now, hitting me up about doing an interview with you about some stuff that you're going to be bringing to the Buckeye BMX show, but it was all based around Dave Mirra, and somehow I didn't plan for this. I asked you a couple days ago about doing this today. I didn't plan for this, but this all came from Dave Mirra, and today's Dave Mirra's birthday.
His birthday.
How crazy is that?
I noticed that today. I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, today's his birthday. I was like, that's crazy.
Pretty
it's weird how stuff like that happens, isn't it? Because
weird timing.
Really weird.
But with that, I mean, first, before we get into that talk, I got to shout out a couple things. Joe Sisman said, hey, I don't have much time. I'm going to watch Return of the Pink Panther with Angie. Love you, Ray.
That's a standard Joe Sisman text. He turns into a different person after 5 o'clock. He and his wife, they have these lavish dinners that he makes. And then they get a bottle of Bulgarian wine and sit back, and they have their cat in between them, and then they watch bad movies.
Sounds great. Sounds like a perfect life.
He has the perfect life, that kid.
That's awesome. And then maybe after we talk about the Buckeye BMX stuff, Todd Carter said, Ray, please share your Gravity Games story.
What's my Gravity Games story?
Todd, fill us in about what Gravity Games story you're talking about, and then we're gonna
Gravity Games.
I'm gonna write something down real quick. I'm not gonna say it yet, but I'm gonna write it down, and then we'll talk about it. So I'm sure Todd will catch us up by the time we get to it.
I probably have like 19 Gravity Games stories. He's got to be a little more specific on. He has to give me a person's name, and I'll know what he's talking about. I think
we'll get it. So the whole Mirra thing with the Buckeye BMX show. Just give me kind of the rundown.
Oh, yeah. So I was I do a show with my friends Factor Freestyle, and we talk a lot of nonsense. We try and figure out. We talk all about old school BMX and stuff, and my job is just to pick on Dave Norrie the whole time, and I'm really good at it. I'm like the best in the world. I am the best in the world at picking on Dave Norrie. So they were talking about this Buckeye thing, and I was like, you know what? I still have. I had thousands of dollars worth of. I mean, like I had 35 complete bikes at one point, maybe 25 complete bikes, and I just wound over the years just like getting rid of everything. So now I'm like really to the point where I still love all the stuff that happened back in the day, but I have a lot of stuff that I could still get rid of. And if I get rid of it, it's not like I'm getting rid of it. It's just basically sharing it with other people that might want it, because I know that I have a few things that don't mean anything to, like they mean something to me, but they're just stuff.
Yeah.
But there might be somebody that'd be like, dude, I would love to have that. Like I have a lot of old posters, that people that are just going to get thrown out someday, but maybe there's that one dude that just moved into a house and has a garage and might want to put this Haro poster on there. So I got stuff like that. So that gave me the idea. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get all my stuff, which isn't a lot, and I'm going to go to this Buckeye thing and sell it and see if people really want to buy this crap. So I was going through a bunch of stuff in my garage, and I had a bag. I had a bag that was in Dave's car that I bought from him. I bought a Saleen Mustang off him, and that's a whole nother story. And I had all this stuff in the bag. So when I was going through the bag, I was like, I have Dave's registration from his Saleen Mustang. So I have like
Whoa.
Dave Mirra's. I have his registration. You know, has his license plate, the title, his autograph.
Whoa.
where he had to sign it. So, and then when I bought the car, I was like, well, how do I get out of here? Like, which way do I go? Because we'd always travel with, this is like before we had like GPS and all that crap. So Dave wrote me directions on how to get out of his driveway.
Whoa.
It's just like go right out of my driveway and then make a left onto whatever. So like just stuff like that's pretty funny. But there might be somebody who likes collecting odd stuff.
Yeah.
And here's the here's the other. Dave paid $20 for his license or license plate sticker. A lot of people don't know that Dave had his own bubble gum.
Whoa, I didn't know.
He had his own Big League type chew. If you ever saw Big League Chew.
Yeah, that's so sick.
So this is stuff like just these things right here. This is stuff that was like in the bottom of a bag.
Yeah. That
I'd probably throw out. But just like your reaction right there, you'd be like, dude, this is really cool stuff.
That is.
So we were at the it's probably like the X Games one year, and they were having like a party, and Dave, for like his video game, Dave Mirra BMX Freestyle Battle, and you could go there and play Dave and go up against him. Like, it has the date and all that stuff, so there's junk like that. He had a big jam at his house, at his he had his Animal House jam.
Yeah.
If that back in 2009.
Hold that in front of your face on the screen. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, we're good now.
Yeah, so I got goofy stuff like that. When Dave was in Dub magazine.
Whoa.
Like, and see, this is the kind of thing where it was really awesome, but we didn't let it be awesome. We would just make fun of them. Like we would come up with like 35 different jokes about Dave being in this, like, just stuff like that. And then we got, this is like, and so like this stuff, I mean, like this stuff I don't know what to do with, because it's like, you can't like really sell it, but I could keep it forever, but then would somebody want this stuff? It's just kind of goofy. But like when Dave was getting married, he sent out his invitation.
Oh yeah.
Like he sent out his invitation. He spelled my name wrong each time. But he sent out the first invitation to save the date. Then he sent out the next one to say, here's when we're getting married. And then the next one was, we already got married, psych. So we got 3. So he wound up getting married and not having a wedding. Or he had a wedding, but just didn't have like the big goofy wedding that everybody has. And so then when I was going through the bag of all the stuff, like every time we'd go to Greenville, we'd always come home with stuff. And then this is the only one that would be hard to part with, but I think there's somebody out there that would love this. So when you see Dave wearing his full face helmet,
yeah,
what do you see if you get a close up of Dave?
Oh,
and it's his his eyes, and then he's got his full face. And what's on that full face?
Right there.
What is it?
The Slim Jim sticker. Oh my goodness, you can't.
That's the sticker that just probably never, like, they probably gave him 10 stickers.
You can't.
And then I'm just saying, there's somebody out there that would want this more than me. This is just laying in the bottom of a bag.
You better put it up for auction or something. Don't just be like, hey, so I'll give you $20 for it,
Look, I can be like, look, I got directions to his house, leaving his house. I got, oh, here's something too. When I bought his car, I drove home with his North Carolina license plate, and he called me up and he's like, "Yo, Ray, I need that license plate back because, you can't like get another license plate unless you like trade that one in." So I got the FedEx receipt from back when I had to send the thing back.
Yeah.
I don't think this personal information will hurt him because, no one's there anymore, but so I just so that's the stuff that Stoney was wigging out on.
Yeah.
That I have all this Dave Mirra stuff. Oh, this is pretty funny. So my friend Mark Eaton, he and the Plywood Hoods, Kevin Jones, Mark Eaton, Brett Downs, they took Dave under his wing in York, Pennsylvania, the Plywood Hoods, and they basically taught Dave how to become Dave Mirra.
Yeah.
And so we were at Mark Eaton's wedding, and Dave was supposed to be there but didn't show up because he was probably riding, doing something. And at a wedding, and you can find out at the wedding like who never showed up because they're like little party favor or their table thing that says what table they're at. So Dave never went, so I stole his cookie. So this is Dave Mirra, table 4, and he got the chicken.
That's so cool.
And the cookie's a little crumbled right now. I would let somebody eat that cookie. That's from 1996. Yeah. Hey, you gotta get a good glass of milk, and then you might be able to knock that down.
Oh God.
And so, and these are just when you would go to his warehouse, you couldn't swing a dead cat by the tail without hitting about 20 of these.
Oh my goodness.
The ramp sticker.
That is incredible.
And then I'll give you the short version of this story. But Dave, and I don't know how exact this is, like, again, my version of the story, because I heard it 6 different times and I got 6 different stories about it. But so when Dave did the deal for this thing that every kid had, the company that did this, they put Dave's picture on all they basically used his picture for other stuff, and instead of giving him 3 cents a bike or a unit, they were giving him $3. So like the first month he got a check for like $200,000, and they're like, "Hey,
holy cow,
we have to buy you out of your contract because of this toy." And so they said, "We'll get you anything you want, like a car. We need to get you a one-time gift." So to be like almost like a jerk, Dave goes, "I want Steve Saleen's Mustang," and showed him a picture of his 1999 Saleen Mustang that was his like personal car. And literally in 4 weeks, it was at Dave's house.
Wow.
And so when we would go to Greenville, that car would be there, and then we'd be talking all this nonsense about it. And I went there, and I actually bought it off him twice. I bought it once, started driving it home, and it blew up. Like a belt broke. And then I drove it home again, and the belt broke again. And then I wound up getting it. But I had Dave's car for about 6 or 7 years, and then eventually sold it. But
wow,
that's where that came from.
So you're gonna have all this stuff, or most of this stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, this stuff I'll bring just to see if there's any type of like dude that would want this.
Yeah.
Like I have a bunch of I got one of Gary Pollock's old bikes, his last GT, that I just bought off a friend that bought it off him. I have a lot of posters. I got a bunch of magazines, and just a bunch of other junk I'm just bringing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing that crazy, but it's just stuff. But my stuff might be the stuff that I think's trash that I might throw out. Somebody might look at it and be like, "Oh my God, I've been looking for this."
Yeah. So that event, the Buckeye BMX Show, is June 3rd this year.
Yes.
This coming June, and I don't know where it's at, so you're gonna have to find that information, people.
It's in Ohio, I know that.
It's in Ohio, and I can't remember if I have anything going on, but I remembered while you were talking about all of this stuff that I might actually have something to help contribute to all of this. And that, but when I first started this YouTube channel, I was like trying to figure out, what to do with things, and I thought, I'm good at drawing. Maybe I'll make videos of me drawing pictures, and so I drew Dave. This is a print.
No way. way.
But I drew this.
You drew that?
This isn't. I'll get the original one out in a minute. This is a print, but I have like a bunch of these that I made them with intentions to just like sell them as prints, and then I kind of just didn't. So if I can go to the event, I will bring these prints to wherever your table is, and like
you can sell them. You can sell them for whatever you want.
We can do whatever with them, and whatever can happen with them.
If I could draw that good, I'd be drawing right now. Think I can't draw a straight line with a ruler.
You wouldn't be.
No, I can't draw. I can't
I could teach you.
I can't draw.
Okay, so
I have the worst penmanship and drawing skills.
So while we're here,
that's amazing.
I'm gonna get the original out because we're talking about Mirra Memorabilia. This is one somebody tried to get me to frame this and like send it somewhere, but I am sentimentally attached. This is another print. I have so many prints that I had made that I just never did anything with, but I have the original in here. Actually, this is a folder with all of my originals because I drew Scotty, I drew Hoffman, I drew a bunch of people. Where are they at? Maybe they aren't in here, but I could have swore they were.
Come on, you're a little unprepared, man. You got to be whipping this stuff out.
I haven't touched these. Okay, there they go. I think.
There we go. See, you just need a little motivation there. There you go.
Okay, here we go. So I found Hoffman, but we don't need to show that one, do we? Should I?
Has he got clothes on at least?
Yeah, he's got clothes.
You draw him with clothes on?
All right.
I don't know, Matt's
oh my God, I'm scared. I'm scared to touch it. Okay.
That's what my wife said on our wedding night.
So here's the one I did of Hoffman. This is the original drawing.
Dude!
You can see the pencil marks on the...
Have people that know, give me some other comments other than me that people have talked, because that's crazy. That's, the detail on that, it's like a photo.
I try, man. So I found the Mirra one. The original Mirra drawing. This is the original Mirra.
Man,
I signed it over there. So I will bring the prints. The original drawing is something that I'll probably never
keep
part
those
with.
forever. But just that and the Hoffman print, dude, people would buy those. I'd buy them.
Well, I have them. I literally have prints of Hoffman's
crazy.
too. Do you want to see the Doyle one while we're here?
I want to see all of them, yeah.
I did one of Doyle.
What? What are you drawing that with? Is that like a pencil or a pen or?
Do you really want to know?
What?
I don't have any here, but literally the Dixon Ticonderoga pencil.
I don't even know what that means, but it sounds
the
fancy.
Yellow pencil that you've used before.
Just like the pencil that I failed all my tests in high school with.
Yes,
that's what you use.
That is the pencil.
Dude,
I only used that one.
How old were you when you first drew something and somebody went, "Gee, Brent, that's really good"? Were you like a little kid?
So no, actually, there's actually kind of a cool story behind it. I don't want to railroad this podcast with it.
Just
I'll
give
tell
us the short version. Hit it.
So basically, the reason that I learned I could draw is because in high school, you had to do either choir, band, or foreign language, or art. And I was like, there's no way in hell I'm singing. There's no way I'm playing an instrument in band. I'm not learning a language because I just don't want to.
If I was in that situation, I would have had to been a singer. That's the closest thing I can do as a skill is singing, and it's not that good.
Well, so there was that.
I'd have to bring a 6-pack and sing when I was in 8th grade for it to be good, like karaoke. But
so
I'd have been screwed.
I just was like, I'm not doing any of those. I'm just gonna go into art class. And it's funny because my teacher will literally be like, to this day, tell people, when he came in here, he was like, I hate art. I don't want to be here. And then, whoa, I just had a moment. So
you could probably be a a gnarly tattoo artist.
People
don't you
say
think?
that, but it's not, unless it's what you're passionate about. You just don't want
Yeah,
to
I mean,
draw
I'm just saying
tattoos.
as in skill wise, because I know like tattooing is probably like I've seen some tattoos that look like that where
Oh, the
they're
realism.
so perfect, yeah.
So
And it's just like it seems like it'd be hard to do. I don't know. I've never gotten a tattoo, so but it just sounds like it looks like it'd be something you could do.
so to keep the story going there, we were in art class and we were learning about grid drawing, which is where you draw the grid on there and then you draw the grid on your picture and then you just basically draw it from one to the other, making it bigger. And I drew, I think the first thing I drew, if I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna have to check here. I don't want to be wrong, but I'm fairly certain the thing that I drew in that grid thing was a picture of Mirra.
Whoa!
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of
And
like, what?
if you tell me that it was on April 4th, I'm gonna go nuts.
I don't know. I'd have to find the picture. I don't have any kind of. I don't know where I'd find it, but I know that I drew a picture of Mirra, and that was what led me. Do I have the other one in here? No. So I drew a picture of Mirra, and then it made me realize I could draw, kind of. And then I don't know if you'll be able to see this somehow. Let me see if I can put it in the chat for you, so you could click on it and see it. So then I drew that.
A nose pick. I
Foot,
see
a
that.
little foot jam, and I was like, oh hey, that's kind of decent. I feel like I could kind of do this. So the next one that I drew that I remember was this, and I'm only showing it because I have the original right here. You can't see it. Let me fix that for you.
No, you gotta pull it back or put it forward, or
I'll
I
just
see it
here.
There we go.
So this was the first thing that I like really drew that was like, whoa.
Is that dude coming up off a ramp and there's a dude on a ramp?
I'm
or
just
are they on like
riding, no, I'm just riding down my driveway taking a picture of
Driving
myself.
Ah, okay.
And then in the corner I'm doing a tire
I
tap.
see.
But I had to it's
okay.
opposite tire tap because I had to flip the picture to put it in that corner based on the photo I drew it from.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found out that I could draw, and then that was what I thought
Crazy.
I had to do in life because it was what I was good at. So I was gonna go to college for like fine art. I was gonna become an artist. And yeah, so that's where I found out about the school that I went to and ended up with video because someone told me that you can do video as a job. And I was like, wait a minute, you can do that? So yeah, to get back to the point of things, I have all of these prints of Mirra, and I will bring them if I can make it to this show.
Yeah.
I'll bring everything I have.
I want to see people's reactions because my reaction crazy, and I'm looking at it on an iPhone. You know,
Yeah.
I just think they look like. The thing is, they look like photos I've seen before, but it's a drawing. You know, it's crazy.
It's from a photo that you've seen before.
Right? Yeah. No, I know the photo. That's why I'm saying like. I think I remember Dave wearing that shirt around his house before. Like that's what creeps me out. I was like, I recognize that shirt.
So yeah, we're gonna make that happen as long as I can. Somebody said that it's in Dayton, so you're gonna have all of the stuff that you showed in Dayton, June 3rd.
June 3rd, yeah.
And I think I'm gonna have to try and make it.
That'd be awesome.
So there was something else someone told me about, and you said you have it right there because you have other crazy BMX memorabilia, and I'm going to let you tell the story.
So when I always get the year wrong. I'm going to go with 1989.
Sounds
1989. There was a contest there's a King of Vert in Canada, and Matt Hoffman did the very first in competition 900.
Yeah.
And Dave Volker was doing them and almost landing them, and basically Matt and Volker were going back and forth. And there's always been talk about Mike Dominguez did one and landed one at home, which I believe because Dominguez would have zero reason to lie because he's Mike Dominguez. But he said he tried them and he landed them, but just never at a contest. And so at this King of Vert, Matt tried it a couple times and lands it, and the place goes nuts. And when he lands, something falls off his bike. And in the video, there's different angles, and you can see something fall off his bike. And when he fell off his bike, it was his pop swatch. So the big thing back then was wear 20 swatches. And then they had the new swatch. It was a pop swatch, and the clasp just like was a plastic thing, and it popped off. And a kid grabbed the watch and gave it back to Matt. He said, "Hey, this fell." And Matt got it and put it on. And I was standing right there when the kid gave it to Matt, and Matt put it back on. And I looked at that watch, and I was like, dude, Matt just did a 900. He was wearing that watch. And I had I don't even know what watch I had. I said, "Matt, here's my watch. I want to trade you for that watch." And he's like, "Nah, that's okay." And I'm like, full Jedi mind trick. I'm like, "Matt, I am going to trade you that watch for that watch." And he's like, "Okay." And Matt gave me the watch. So when Matt did the 900, the watch fell off. And this is the piece of history. Matt's watch.
Whoa.
From the 900. And just by chance, when I was talking to Joe Sisman, I said, "Hey, when Matt did that 900, I gave a tape to Ron Wilkerson to play." And Joe goes, "You DJ'd Matt's 900," which is true. And when you would do an AFA contest, you'd have your tape, and you'd have your name and your class. I was 19 over expert.
Yeah.
So this was the tape. This was my tape that I had from an AFA contest that had all these songs on it. So this was playing when Matt did the 900. This is the watch he was wearing that fell off when he did the 900. And an added bonus, Kevin Martin, the announcer for Too Hip and the contest that day, this is his watch, a pop swatch.
Jeez.
So I got these three things from back then. Just this kind of stuff. Now these have been sitting forever, just like whatever. And like, what do you do with them? Like, these are just going to get thrown out someday. Now this I could take to the BMX Hall of Fame and make a thing, and they could hang it up. But I just don't know if people would be that into a watch at the BMX museum.
I think it's just kind of cool. And if you like wrote out the story in a paragraph,
yeah,
and it could go on like a plaque or something in front of it with the tape, you make like, you have like a picture frame type thing. The watch is hanging in there. The tape's right beside it.
And there's a Swatch ad with him wearing this watch, and the background of the ad is this watch.
Yeah, so you could put that with it too. It'd be really, really cool to do that, and that'd be awesome. That's so wild though, and I'm not gonna lie, I'd never seen one of those before, so I did not.
You've never seen? Yeah, like the whole thing about a pop swatch is that, and oh my god, I've never done this. It pops out. Okay.
Don't break it.
Wow, I'm not. So you take it off, and then you put it in your shirt, and then you'd go like that. That's why it's called a pop swatch.
In the world.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
So you could wear your watch like on your shirt. That's, what's so funny is I've never done that before. Like, I remember people used to do it back in the day, but I never did it with this. Wow, what if it had like a secret note on the back or something, like "Go Matt"?
Right.
But,
or like a cheat code written on it. It was like an up, down, left, right arrow.
That's so funny.
Wow.
I'll pop this one. I'll pop Kevin Martin's and see what happens here. His looks a little more beat up.
Yeah, that's scary. I would not be doing that.
No, I'm not gonna do. I won't pop. But anyway, so that's the dumb stuff I have. Back in the AFA days, everybody had one of these. Every kid wore the Vision hip sack.
I thought that was a face mask from 2020.
Yeah, it could be. But and then in here I just had, like, back in the day, you could use these almost as currency because today now they're worth a ton. but these are Club Homeboy stickers. And if
Oh,
you don't know what a
wow.
Club Homeboy sticker is, then you're missing out on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But so I got some goofy stickers, but I got some ET cards.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. And I named my son Elliot because of ET, believe it or not.
That's funny.
My wife and I were trying to pick names and we couldn't come up with anything, and then I just threw Elliot out there, and she's like, "Where'd you get Elliot from?" And I'm like, "And my friend was a stunt double for Elliot, if you know who, because you know who Seppi Mays is, of course, right? Of course you do. Why wouldn't you?
Somebody,
Yeah.
I mean, if there was more than one stunt double from ET,
There were a bunch.
One of them
he was
comes
the
and hangs
actual
out
Elliot.
in the chat with us sometimes. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm surprised you didn't do anything with Bill Allen's name involved in Rad.
Come on. Well, we're gonna see, you and I are gonna see Bill Allen.
No, listen. Stoney told me
I'm dreading the day
to ask you about Rad, and I don't know why.
I have okay, first of all, I've met Bill Allen a few times briefly, but didn't really engage in conversation with him. Bill Allen is a good guy. He's a nice guy. There's no reason for me to dislike him at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I dislike him because I feel like I dislike him, but I don't. Like if he's gonna be at this thing, and I think I'm gonna be friends with him if the opportunity's there.
Yeah.
He shouldn't even care about a dude like me because I shouldn't matter to him, which is just real. But what it comes down to is he showed up, did a acting gig, and he was in a movie. He was in a movie that was pretty bad, but now it's like a cult classic, and he's the guy that was the main character. But so he goes to BMX events now, and he makes money off of men like me, my age, who watch that movie. And fortunately, I'm not a big fan of the movie Rad. It's not like, even when it came out, we thought it was kind of lame.
Mm-hmm.
And as we watch it as adults, it's really lame. We felt that we were hoodwinked in thinking it was going to be a great movie because the opening scene in Rad got us so pumped up. So pumped up. They were all the biggest stars in the sport. It was the greatest opening of any movie. And then it goes from that to some kid, doing this fake race. It's just like, so anyway, it all started, one of my friends went to some thing, to one of these bike shows, and he's like, "Oh, I got Bill Allen's autograph." And I go, "Who's Bill Allen?" And he goes, "He's the guy that played Crew Jones." I go, "Oh, what was that guy doing there?" And he's like, "He was selling his autograph." And I was like, "To who?" And he goes, "Well, to me. I bought his autograph." And I'm like, "You paid money for that dude's autograph?" So I just think it's very, if he was doing, if Rad was him doing a rodeo, he wouldn't be at the Buckeye thing. He'd be in Texas, petting a bull and selling it to some kid wearing a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
So I just think that, and there's nothing wrong with what he's doing. I just myself think it's a little silly, and I like to rough him up about it. So
I just had to bring it up.
Yeah. Did Todd say what the Gravity Game story was?
Yes. Okay, so let me go back here. We got a couple things there. First, Dave Norrie's long gone by now, but he said, "Good night, Brant and Ray. Coach, I'm going to record another 80s show hack how-to video."
I call Dave an 80s show hack. That's because he kind of is, but,
That's funny. Mike Hagen? How do you say that? I don't know. He said, "Wow, all the geezers are in the chat." I kid. Big respect to Norrie Carter. I was an 80s kid. I'm just scrolling back. Kurt Schmidt's hanging out with us.
I know who he is.
Yeah, Kurt's rad. So, oh man, I think I went too far. Where's the Gravity Games comment? Oh, there we go. Okay. So,
does it have to do with Laird Hamilton?
No, he said when you were in the boat, etc.
Oh, that's from the Maid Show. Like, I had to take a boat to get in there. That's not even a story.
something about the thing he said was, Ray, please share your Gravity Games story. Then the next thing he said was, when you were in the boat, etc.
Yeah. Pass on that. That's not even. I'll have to yell at him about that. I thought it was something good. I thought it was when I pushed Gabby Reese's husband and didn't know who he was.
Do
you know who Gabby Reese is?
I think I've talked about Gabby Reese in my last 2 podcasts.
Oh, okay. So her husband, we were at my friend Kenan worked the Gravity Games, and we met Gabby Reese there. So every year we go there, we meet Gabby, and she's the coolest chick in the world. We became friends with her, and she was like, hey, can you do me a favor? Tomorrow my husband's going to be here, but I'm going to be working all day. Can he hang out with you guys? So we're like, sure. What's your husband do? What's his deal? She's like, he's a surfer, and he's coming here to hang out for the next couple of days. I know nothing about surfing. So I'm roughing up Gabby like all day, and she's like, well, when my husband comes here tomorrow, you're going to be in trouble. Just all joking stuff. So he shows up, and I see him, and I just walk up to him, and he's getting ready to say hi to me. Like, Gabby's like, oh, here comes that guy, Ray, blah, blah, blah. And I just walked up to him and gave him the biggest shove you could give somebody. And people were just looking like, dude, what is up with this dude? And then I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? And so we hung out all, like, probably, I mean, not all weekend, maybe like a day and a half, just hung out, explained to him what was going on, went out to eat, and just had a great time. We were making fun of him because he was in a movie. He was in the movie The North Shore, and we were ripping on him about that. But other than that, I didn't know anything about him. And then a couple days later, a friend of mine came over who I hadn't seen in years, and he's like, "Oh, I've been in, down the shore, which is the ocean, what people call the ocean, or the beach." And he's like, "I've just been surfing." And I start showing him these pictures from the Gravity Games, and he goes, "Dude, where did you meet Laird Hamilton?" And I'm like, "Who?" And he goes, "Laird," because I just called him Laird. Laird, I didn't even know his last name. And he's like, "Laird Hamilton, this guy right here." He's like, "You're standing next to him." I'm like, "Oh," I was like, "That's Gabby Reese's husband." And he's like, "Dude, Laird's one of the greatest surfers in the world." And I'm like, "What?" And to tell you how old this is, he went out to his car and got a DVD or a tape or a VHS, and he's like, "Here, watch this." And it was Laird Hamilton. So I found out that I was picking on the most legendary surfer in the history of the world for a week or for a day and a half, and they didn't know it. And I think that's probably why he was having so much fun, because I had no clue who he was. And I think maybe a lot of people there didn't know that he was who he was, because a lot of people don't, out this way don't know much about surfing. So it's pretty funny.
Well, I feel like, you were probably just treating him like just another person, and that's what people like the most, is when you treat them just like a person.
Yeah, without a doubt.
That's pretty amazing, though, that you pushed Laird Hamilton without even knowing.
I gave him a shove.
Like, imagine.
I mean, he could totally kick my ass too, because he's a big man. He's
imagine
fit.
if he did.
A fit. Oh, I had plenty of homies there with me. You kidding me? I got, my friends would have jumped off the ramp to come save Large Ray.
Oh, I guess you're right. That's a good point.
Yeah, no, I just would have got him in a bear hug and laid on him until I could, suffocate him, and then I would actually. But then Gabby, she's pretty fit too, and she's like 6'3". She'd probably just choke me out. So,
can you imagine the headlines after something like that?
Yeah, Ray gets in a fight with Gabby Reese and Laird Hamilton. Ray gets choked out by Gabby Reese, but at the end they all went to the Cheesecake Factory at the end.
That's amazing. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's funny. My last 3 podcasts were surrounded by that Gravity Games, because my last one was with Doyle, who got second in dirt. The one before that was with TJ, who won. And then the one before that was Biz, who got third. And at least TJ and Chris brought up Gabby. I don't know if Biz... I don't think Biz did, because we didn't talk about Gravity Games.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
That's awesome.
And then you mentioned Kenan. So I did a react video where I just watched some of the different... I watched Dirt and I watched Street, and I reacted to it. And I hear Kenan in there, and I don't know who's announcing until I see him on screen. And I'm like, holy crap! Kennan's the one who's been announcing this whole time.
Yeah. Kenan Harkin, he's the inventor he's the first guy to ever do a backflip 360.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to chat with him one day.
Oh, he can talk. He can talk more than me, man.
Oh, I would.
But the only way you'll get a hold of him is if you jump in his swamp wearing an alligator suit.
Dude, I have lizards right there. I mean.
Oh, then you're in. Then you're in. That's all you had to say.
I'll
if
just
you have a
put
lizard,
it on my shoulder and.
Yep. Then you're in. He'll do it.
That's funny. Either way, yeah, just planting seeds because I would love to make that happen. But.
Oh yeah.
So like. What other BMX I can't say that word. You know what I mean.
Memorabilia. I really don't have much. I don't have. I mean, I was there for a lot of stuff that happened, but actual physical junk, I don't have. Just this little bit of stuff, you know.
Yeah. Are you bringing
not much?
Any of the non-Mirra stuff or?
Yeah. Oh, that's what I'm mainly bringing. This is just in a bag. This wasn't even a lot of it's not a lot of stuff. What I'm gonna bring is I have two different bikes. I have a 92 or 3 GT, whatever team model, whatever Gary. It's the last bike that Gary got from GT. Mm-hmm. Then I got a 92 Chrome DMC Mongoose that I have that I'm gonna sell. And then I have a whole bunch of leathers from Mark Eaton, like Mongoose leathers, Haro leathers, GT leathers. I got a bunch of DVDs from Mark to sell for Joe Kid on a Stingray, if you ever saw Joe Kid on a Stingray. I have a bunch of magazines, and I have about 5 or 6 posters that are mounted on PVC or what we call Sintra board. Mm-hmm. I have some of that. And that's pretty much it. I don't have a ton of stuff, but I have enough to fill up a table. I have a bunch of old shirts.
Nice.
That I was going to get rid of. But that's pretty much it. I have a few parts. I have some old Haro mouth guard and visor for a helmet that nobody would wear, but people that are trying to redo some old school stuff would be able to use it. And that's pretty much it. And I have this. I have the Slim Jim can.
Whoa, dude, that is so cool.
And it's mint condition. I guess Dave had these. He had Slim Jim. When you go to his house, he'd have Slim Jims, Red Bull, and what else did he have? He'd have a bunch. He would get Red Bull delivered to his house, and he wasn't even sponsored by him. But they just knew that he had a lot of traffic in and out of his house, so Red Bull would just send them. They sent him a fridge, and then Red Bulls, and stuff used to just show up at his house. The UPS would just show up. Here's a TV, somebody just sent it to you because they know, and this is before like I said, social media. Before now, you got an Instagram page, you take pictures of it and do whatever, but it's Yeah, I always think about what Dave would be doing now if he he could have had it all going on, and it's pretty beat that he would have been able to do a lot of good stuff, and I just don't think he knew it. He could have done anything. That dude could have done anything. He could have done anything and been successful, but I just think he just had. There's just too much stuff going on with him, man. But
yeah, it sucks. Definitely showed he could literally do anything.
Yeah, and the thing that I liked about Dave the most is something that I don't have, and he was the most competitive dude I've ever seen. I'm not competitive at all. I don't give a shit if I lose something. You lose, whatever. He did not like to lose. And that was the thing that was fun to watch with him, where, he always had to win. And when I mean had to win, I'm talking, if we were playing darts right now and I threw a dart and I got a bullseye, Dave would not leave until he got 2 bullseyes. You know what I mean? He would have to be better than you.
Yeah.
And if you were hey, look, we're leaving, we're going, he'd go and buy a dartboard and set it up until he got, was awesome at darts. And then the next time he saw you, he'd go, hey, let's go play some darts. And then he would win. He'd kill you in darts. And then that's the way he was. And that always fascinated me about him, how he did not take no for an answer when it came down to like winning shit. And that's why he was so good at what he did, man. He was good. You know, he had all the skill, and on top of it, not only did he have the skill, but he had the balls and he had the desire to always be number one. And when you put all that together, you get the superhero Dave Mirra that, you know, luckily my friends and I got to see, which was awesome.
Superhero covers it pretty well.
Yeah.
It's very crazy that today's his birthday and we're doing this, and it all came from stuff to do with him.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like I've had this conversation with a lot of people, but I wonder your insight on it. Like, what do you think it would take for there to be just in the world another BMX rider who elevated themselves to the same level of notoriety and just like greatness as Dave?
Well, I think you'd have to have a platform like the X Games. You know, you'd have to have something like maybe it'd be the Olympics.
Yeah.
It'd have to be where something in the Olympics became you would, because like BMX was pretty much dead, and then when the X Games first started, the X Games kind of seemed like a joke, but then as time went on, it was like, wow, the X Games, like everybody knew who Dave Mirra was. Like if you went to, I remember, I forget who told us this, but they were doing a survey in all the high schools in America, and they said, who are your top three? Who are the top three sport people? Like who are the most famous, or maybe not even sport, just like famous people? And it was Tony Hawk, Michael Jordan, and Dave Mirra.
Jeez.
Like Dave Mirra got on that list because everybody was watching the X Games, and he was so good. And so in the BMX world, to get BMX that popular again, I don't know. I guess it would have to be the Olympics. I don't think, unless is the word revitalize or revitalization of like now the X Games are on. I don't even watch it.
Right.
Like the X Games are on, and I'm just like, well, the X Games for me, I lost interest in it when the riders surpassed video games, where they literally were doing tricks that if you were playing a video game, you're like, well, no one can do a 1080 or whatever it's called. Like it's impossible. But then, you know, Ryan Gutler would huck this like 1080 or whatever it's called. And it's like,
Yeah.
he just surpassed the video game. Like a guy does a triple backflip, bar spin, backflip or whatever it is. And the riding got so good, it looked fake.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way I looked at it, where, you know, it just looked like I would see somebody do an 8-foot 540, and I'd think that was crazy. And that looked so much crazier than if you just did one of those huge big tricks, because those big tricks almost look fake.
Yeah.
They look like a video game, so it's just weird.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about that aspect of things. And then if you compare it to like snowboarding, which seems so much bigger than BMX, but you watch snowboarding, and I feel like that's how people look at BMX in that way. Is
Right.
like, they're like, he just did a 16 whatever. And then
Yeah.
he does it and he goes and he spins again. And it's like, I have no idea how you just could tell the difference between the two things
Right.
that guy just did. But
Yeah.
another thing too that like Bestwick was talking about when we were at Woodward one time is that there used to be this thing to do with X Games or Do Tour or whatever it was, that it was the place where everybody showed off their craziest trick that they spent all year learning. And
Yep.
and that's one of the huge things that social media has taken away for us, is that build up to bring something like that up. And we just totally don't have that anymore because of social media.
Right. I never thought of that, and that's a great one, because I remember going to contests when I was a kid, and they'd be like, "Hey, Kevin Jones has this new trick called the hitchhiker. What is it?" And then they would explain it, and you couldn't figure it out, and then you'd be waiting all day for Kevin's run, and then he would do the hitchhiker. You'd be like, "Oh my God, there it is!"
Yeah.
And then, then you'd have to tell people about it, or you'd have a video of it. But now it's like if you did that sick trick, it's live on YouTube, like people have seen it right there and then it's like, okay, now what?
Yeah, and I think it's sort of freestyle motocross is sort of bringing it back a little bit, with Nitro Circus bringing rumblings to like when they did the triple backflip on a dirt bike, or Nitro Circus with the quad backflip on a BMX bike.
Yeah.
They brought the excitement to it by like promoting it, that they're doing this special thing that's going to be on TV and it's going to show whatever the crazy thing that happened was. And I don't know if BMX will ever get back there, but I feel like for BMX to elevate itself to where it was back then when Mirra became Mirra, something is gonna have to happen that brings the excitement back.
I know what'll have to happen. Everybody likes a good underdog and champion. Like it's got to be like a Rocky type thing.
Yeah.
You got to get a BMX dude. Like if it's gonna just say it's gonna have what do they call street now? Park. Like if you're in a skate park, what's that called? Park.
Yeah.
Park. Okay. So you have to have for the Olympics in the park comp. Do they have a park competition in the Olympics now?
That's all that there's been so far. Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, there's BMX racing.
Oh, well, okay.
Where have you been, dude?
Listen, I'm of the era where those are two completely separate things. Okay. I don't even think about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So anyway, what you need is you have to have the Olympics. Okay. When are the next Olympics?
24 next year.
Okay. So next year. So today you have to have on the world news. You got to be like talking about, and the Olympics are coming to wherever, and then you got to have a kid from Venezuela who is 19 years old and, blah, 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 some down on his luck story. And he's going to go and win the gold medal for Venezuela. Then you're going to have to get this like all-American kid from Oklahoma. And then he's going to come and you got to create the battle.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone's going to watch it live on the Olympics. And that's how you'll get these people rooting for this guy, these people rooting for this guy, and then when they finally go and do it, whoever wins, and then you got to get the guy that lost to come over and hug him and make it beautiful, and that's when people will be like, I love this BMX stuff.
Yeah.
That's what it takes.
I'm going to revise it for you because we can make this a real scenario right now. So instead of the 19-year-old kid from Venezuela, it's the almost 40-year-old Daniel Dares from Venezuela who got second in the last Olympics, and he's coming back, and he wants the gold. And then you have
like Rocky.
Yeah, then you have 19-year-old, I think he's 19, he might even be 18 still, Marcus Christopher from Ohio, not Oklahoma, who's a phenom, who's been... Everybody in BMX has known about Marcus since he was 12 years old when he came out with his Dance Comp edit or whatever that was. And he's been doing amazing, beating Logan Martin sometimes. And he's going to the Olympics to try and win.
There you go. See, because what they want, the world wants either good, evil, or old and young.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather have old than young. I don't like evil. So,
yeah.
I think, but that's what you would need. Like if you get Daniel Dares to come out, do his stuff, and have him battle, and that way they can. I mean, there's 20 different storylines you can have. Daniel's going to show this kid blah blah blah, and this kid's going to show Daniel.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, man, write it up. Get MTV involved. They know how to write shit up. They know a great story.
Somebody call up MTV because I don't know how to get a hold of them. That is too funny.
There's nobody there when you call now. There's nobody there. I've tried.
Okay. Stoney's actually like crazy when it comes to contacting like those types of things. So Stoney, make it happen. Use your magic.
Stoney's gonna be the guy that revitalizes BMX.
Please.
He's gonna be the He's gonna be like the guy that found the Backstreet Boys or all those boy bands. Stoney's gonna be the guy that finds. He's gonna be the one that gets BMX back on the map.
He's gonna be was it Matt Damon in that movie about Venus and Serena Williams that just came out, who was like No, I think it might have been the other one. Matt Damon's other guy. Who's
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck. I think it might have been Ben Affleck who was the manager or something in that movie.
Oh, okay.
He's going to be the Ben Affleck of that
Yeah.
scenario with BMX. Too funny.
Stoney can probably do anything. He doesn't know it, but he can probably do anything.
I wouldn't be surprised. I was also just reminded, too, of... you said you didn't have a lot of BMX memorabilia, but there's also another thing. I heard that your helmet's in the Hall of Fame.
It is. It's in the. Well, there's the Hall of Fame and there's the museum. If you look on like my Facebook page, there's a picture of me and Eddie Fiol, and I think it's really funny because I had a helmet. Like I said, I had to like do stuff that people would like be like, hey, look at that guy, because I didn't have a lot of tricks.
Mm-hmm.
So I painted my helmet like an eyeball,
Mm.
and then so I'd wear that helmet, and it got in all the magazines, and then. Luckily, we were at a contest in 1988 or 89 in Arizona, and Kevin Jones. Please tell me you've heard of Kevin Jones.
Oh, yeah. I think he's the one who they say started Flatland, right?
He didn't start it, but he made it. He was one of the best Flatlanders ever. And
Like he
people
made it
still
what
today,
it is.
Yeah, he was a great flat. He was great. I mean, he could ride anything. He could ride vert, dirt, street, anything, but Flatland was his main thing. But he wore my helmet. He didn't have a helmet. He's like, hey, can I use your helmet? So I was like, sure, put it on. And then he was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, and they used a photo from Bill Batchelor's book, Smog and Concrete, which is a great book. If you're my age, it's the greatest book ever. And so they used Bill Batchelor's photo, and it's Kevin wearing the helmet. And I just happened to bring the helmet to the Hall of Fame. And I just happened to know Gork, who runs the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, do you guys want my helmet? Because a lot of people recognize this helmet, and Kevin wore it. Dude, I showed up with it. They opened up the case and put it right in. So you have like all these helmets. You have Jamie Bestwick, TJ Lavin, Dave Volker, Eddie Fiola, Ron Wilkerson, and right in the middle you have Ray Schleckwegs, Large Ray's shit bucket helmet right next to Eddie Fiola's helmet from Rad. So I got a picture of Eddie and I standing there with the helmet. So I mean, hopefully they keep it in there, because the thing is, it's so funny because all the helmets are like professional dudes' helmets, and my helmet was a literal shit bucket. But people wore it, like, Kevin and a couple other people wore it, but Kevin got photos in magazines wearing it. So I believe they probably have it in there more because Kevin wore it. But if you get me and a bunch of people my age, they look at that helmet and immediately know, like, hey, that's Large Ray's helmet. And I was really excited to bring it and have them put it in there. So I'm psyched on that.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, so this is what I said I was going to make in my notes and talk about later. Can you tell me what in the world Frog Bars is?
Yes. Okay, Joe Sisman, he's a functioning mentally ill person where he can function, and he really is. I'm
sorry, Joe.
He can function. You can laugh,
Okay.
but it's a true statement. Joe can function as an adult. He has some secret job where he stands up in front of people and he has a career doing something with like technology. And like he wears different shirts, he wears different glasses, he wears different ear things, and he controls the masses in a room talking about technology. Nothing that I understand. Then he goes into his pro flatland life, and 98% of the stuff he talks about, I have no idea what he's talking about. And if something happens in the world, like, us talking about Dave today on his birthday is Frog Bars. Frog Bars is the reason why it happened. That's the easiest way to explain Frog Bars. Frog Bars is when something happens and you don't know why, but you know why. Like we have no idea why today we were going to talk about Dave and it's his birthday today. We have no idea why that happened, but then we can look at each other and look at this and go, we know exactly why it happened. But we don't know why it happened, if that makes sense. That's what Frog Bars is.
Dang. My whole life is Frog Bars.
Yeah, see? It totally is.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I get it now.
And Joe's going to love that we just took 3 minutes out to talk about frog bars. You know what I mean? He'll be up all night now if he sees this because he's so proud of me right now. We're proud of you for bringing up frog bars because I avoid it whenever possible because because Joe's a mental patient, but he's my favorite mental patient ever. I love Joe.
That's funny. He's also in Ohio, and I still have never met him. So
yeah. Oh, you'll meet him if you go to the Buckeye thing.
We'll be there. It a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Friday, Saturday. We'll be there Friday and Saturday, but Saturday is going to be the day when there's going to be. That's like when they have all the shows. I'm actually going around the show. I have 5 gold medals, and I'm having my own category of where I'm going to check people's bikes to make sure they're legit. And the reason we came up with this is I went to a bike show 20 years ago, and dudes had these mint condition, brand new freestyle bikes, but there wasn't air in the tires or the chain was loose. The grips weren't on.
Oh yeah.
And I'd fire these dudes up and I'd send them on. I'm like, you got to get out of here. This is ridiculous. This is an embarrassment to the sport to do this. So I'm going to find the top 5 bikes that are ready to get on. I'm going to just do freestyle bikes because that's what I did back in the day.
Yeah.
So the top 5 freestyle bikes, if they're legit, you're going to get a gold medal. And anybody that works that hard on a bike to make it legit is going to love an award. They love awards, and they will get the Large Ray My Bike's Legit award.
That's so
What do you think of
that? I think that's awesome.
You can be there. You can be there.
As long as listen, I'm terrible about committing myself and then forgetting. So as long as I didn't already do that, I'm going to be there.
We're going to commit right now, June 3rd, anywhere between, you're going to be, say, 10 a.m. to 5. You are going to be at that show. And then if you're lucky enough, we have a very, what's the word, exclusive? No, what's something that only not a lot of people can go to? Only a selective. Exclusive's the word. I'm not good on usually my friend Todd helps me with these words. Todd Carter helps me with my 10-cent words. But an exclusive group goes to, you ready for this? Goes to Red Lobster. Yeah, you heard it. Red Lobster. You know, the biscuits, the all-you-can-eat shrimp, the seafood fest. We get a select few and invite them to a night of Red Lobster.
You want to know why I should be there? Because 1, I've never been to a Red Lobster before. 2,
oh my God,
I will order chicken fingers at Red Lobster.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, they have pasta. Yeah. Okay. No, that's even that. You know what that is right there? You know what that is right there? That was frog bars.
Someone literally said incoming frog bars.
Yeah. See?
Life is great. So, speaking on indulging people by talking about certain things, Brett Downs texted me way earlier, like over an hour ago, and said,
I've known Brett way more than half my life. I've known him forever. He's the best.
And he's talked probably 3/4 of that half of your life that you've known him.
Yes.
Yeah.
He and I talk. We just, if Brett and I were on a car trip for like 8 hours, it would be there'd be no quiet time. We would just talk. we try and out-talk each other. We both have big volume buttons too, so yeah. Sick. And we can talk about nothing too. We can talk about nothing and be right, you know?
So what he said was, ask Ray about, this is in quotes, the boy getting run over by his own bike. Trick.
Yes. That was, again, well, here's another thing is I'm the youngest of 3 boys, so I was always looking for attention. And so when I got into the freestyle world, it was the same thing. I knew I was not going to get any attention, but I love attention. Mm-hmm. So the first contest I ever entered, I was like, my final trick's going to be boy getting run over by his own bike. And there was a sequence in the magazine, and I can't find it. It was like American Freestyler, like one of these I remember the photographer Steve Giberson. He was an old racer back in the 70s.
Yeah.
But so what I did is it was an outdoor contest, the velodrome. It was a big concrete slab, and I just like rode my bike, ghosted it, and then ran. Back then I could run, and I ran in front of it and dove, and my bike ran me over. And that was my final trick.
That's
amazing. Boy getting run over by his own bike. And I think it looked so good because watching like a fat kid run and then belly flop on the ground and the bike hit him and run over him, it actually worked. It's a kind of trick you can only do once. So
that is amazing.
Yeah, that was my introduction to the world of freestyle, was that trick. And I only did it once.
That is incredible. Holy cow. So Eric Stahl in the chat said, just DM'd you a frog bars meme from Joe.
Perfect.
Says, it's a picture. Here, I don't know if you, let me make sure you'll be able to see this. Come on. Really, phone?
Pull it back. Hold it closer to your face, maybe.
I got you.
Like, because I can see it before you.
So it's a.
Oh wait, that's it.
It's a stem in some handlebars.
Yeah, and I think his friend Chad DeGroot, who's a pro flatlander and Hall of Fame nominee, I think Chad took that picture and was like, "Dude, look at what just rolled in my shop." So some dude put his bars on, and that's where Joe is. That's where Joe got frog bars.
Make your way to Vegas.
Looks like a.
Introduce Zach to me. I'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow, someone actually put their stem like that?
And probably rode it. Like, can you imagine? It had to have been like a little kid, because if like a teenager got on that and just like did like a 180, you'd probably just snap it or forward it or backward it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, Joe sees something like that and and he just runs with it the rest of his life and talks about that. You know,
so there's that. And I feel like there's a large portion of, oh my God, you want to talk about frog bars?
I think we already did.
Fishing just said dropping a deuce watching this, and people have been saying this entire time that we should probably tell the microwave story.
Oh,
should we do it last?
Yeah, I mean, we can do it whenever you want.
Oh, let's go for it.
I mean, yeah. So, the microwave story is, and we on Factor Freestyle, we want to have Bob Morales on, who is the guy that ran the event that the microwave incident happened at. I always say this. I'm going to give you the short version of it because there's so much to it, but 1987, West Palm Beach, Florida. I show up at the contest, and I got beat up by a security guard because we had showed up. There was a snowstorm on the East Coast. We got there late. I was walking around the hotel with a guy, Luke Delaval. He was like 14. I was 17. And this guy said, "Hey, you guys, there's a curfew here." Luke said, like, "Go fuck yourself." And then the guy, because I was a big dude, he like jacks me up and pushes me and does all this stuff, and he literally like beat me up. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get back at this dude. We saw the guy later the next day using the microwave to heat something up, and I was like, we're gonna teach this guy a lesson. So Sunday night, the contest was over. We're all back at the hotel, and I don't want to get too graphic, but we somehow ended up with a lot of human waste in a pile of toilet paper, and we put it into a microwave. Now, I put it into the microwave and closed the door and ran. Me and Luke and I, took off and went to a hotel room where Mark Luman was. He was the editor. He was not the editor, something editor of Freestyle magazine. And we're in there talking, and he goes, somebody comes to the room, I think it was Craig Grasso, came to our room and said, "Hey, there's something on fire. There's ambulance, police, they're evacuating the hotel. We got to get out of here." So we're just like, what's going on? We were just there like 20 minutes ago. We're like, dude, everyone's got to get out of the hotel. So we open up the door, and it's like one of these like outdoor hotel things. Like there's palm trees, and we can see like all these lights reflecting off, like, like yellow and blue lights. And we're like, what's going on? And then we start walking towards the lobby, and we get this smell, and people are just like lined up throwing up. And I'm like it's the worst smell I've ever smelled in my life. And the kid Luke looks at me and he goes, "Oh shit." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "It must have caught on fire." And I'm like, "Well, how would it catch on fire? We just closed the door, and if somebody had to use it, I mean, there was so much toilet paper and shit, they would have seen it." And he goes, "No, when you closed the door, there was a 30-second button, and I hit it and ran." So for 30 seconds, that poop and toilet paper was just burning and cooking. And the smell, I can't describe anything I've ever smelled that bad. Like, I've never smelled anything that bad. Like, it was the worst. And people were just like vomiting. They were throwing up. So everyone gets kicked out of the hotel. I don't know where we went. I forget, but like, we just, it was a mess. It was such a mess. Like, there was every fire truck, every cop, every ambulance was at the hotel because of that. And like, I was terrified. Like, I was like, I'm going to jail for so long. And there were already people blaming me for it. And I was just like, I was with Mark Lumen. Ask Mark Lumen. I was with him. So, but then like after it happened, like I got on the plane and went home, and I was like, all right, we made it. But that story, I mean, it's in Matt Hoffman's book. He has a book, his life of something, and that story is in there on page 43 because I have the book. But so then as years went on, that's all people, like I've had people walk up to me. Like I've had people walk up to me at the X Games in 2003 and be like, "Hey, are you Large Ray?" "Yeah." "Oh, dude, tell me about the microwave." Like my friend was there and told me about it. So like people would come up and ask me about the microwave. Yeah, it was something that like, and so I've never talked to Bob Morales about it. And I don't know if he ever got in trouble for it or if he wanted to kill me. Like, and I'm still to this day afraid to like be confronted, because, he might be like, "Hey man, I like lost my job or I lost something because of that." So who knows?
Wow. So I guess the only proper way to like follow that story is by letting you know that you started telling it at 10:43.
See? That's a whole nother thing. 43 is a whole nother thing that came about back then.
I don't get it. What's the...
Oh, here, I'll tell you what 43 is right now. If starting tonight, you start looking for 43, tomorrow morning when you get up and if you go somewhere, you're going to see a license plate and it's going to say 43. You're going to see a dump truck with a 43.
Uh-huh.
You're going to watch the news and 43 people are going to be something. Like 43 shows up everywhere. As soon as you start looking for 43, it just shows up everywhere.
Oh, I already
it's
have
ridiculous.
Those numbers that I look for like that all the time that show up everywhere for me.
And I made the mistake of telling that to Joe. Like a year ago, 2 years ago, I'm like, "Joe, you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of 43 because your mental illness brain can't handle something like this because it comes up so frequent." And then the next thing you know, he has 98 texts in a row. This has 43. I just went here and it was 43. This is 43. I just went and bought something that was 43. It's ruined his life.
What's that movie?
That and frog bars.
The number 23? Is it 23? The movie? Is that movie called 23?
23. It's like on a hotel room door or something.
Yeah, the number 23 is the movie. It's the same concept, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah, I already have those numbers in my life.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That story. Whew, that has the record for me laughing harder during one of these than I ever have in my life.
You should have been there when it happened, man. It was crazy. Like, oh, and then the thing that's funny, and I've told this story a million times, like 2-3 years later, Dino or GT was on tour, and they came through King of Prussia, and I was with Dave Volker and Ron Haro, and they were they bought a case of beer and we went to a AC/DC concert. And on the way back, they were both hammered drunk as bad as you could get. And Ron Hart was like, let me tell you something, man, that contest a couple years ago, if I find the dude that put that poop in that microwave, I'll kill him right now. And I'm like, why? What happened? He's like, well, my room was right next to that microwave, and I had to fly home to San Diego, and my clothes smelled, and they wouldn't let me on the plane. And he's like, so finally, like, I got on the plane and I went home. He's like, but if I find the dude, he goes, I'll kill him. I'm like, well, dude, I know exactly where the guy is that did that. He goes, take me to him. I'll kill him right now. And I'm like, he's driving. And he's like, what? And I'm like, dude, that was me. I put the poop in the microwave. And Volker's like, I told you it was Ray. I told you it was Ray. He's like, there's no way that was you. And I'm like, yeah, that was me. And then he's cracking up laughing. He's like, that's the funniest thing I ever heard. So,
holy God.
The poop. But I guarantee you right now, if you called Dino DeLuca and Brett Downs, you probably don't even know who those guys are, but they both rode for GT or Dino back in the day. Years later, I saw them in I think it was 2010 at Woodward West, and I said, "What's the worst thing?" Like, I planned it, like I knew because I watched them throw up. I go, "Hey, what's the worst thing you ever smelled?" And they're like, "Oh my God, West Palm Beach, Florida." Because they were both outside throwing up when we came around the corner. I just remember those two guys. They had like the tank tops on that said Dino and the mullets, and they're just leaned over throwing up. So.
I gotta recover from that one.
Only youth. That's just the youth doing that. Like if my son did something like that, I'd kill him. But
it was a different world. We mentioned that already. It was just totally different back then.
Yeah,
you could get away with so much stuff that you can't get away with.
Well, yeah,
now.
There's no like. Can you imagine now it'd be on camera. Every place you go has a camera. I mean, I probably would have went to jail.
Oh, probably.
I mean, the hotel caught on fire. They had every emergency service there. Like, my dad would have had to pay like $1 gazillion and probably would have went bankrupt, and he would have lost his job and been homeless. I don't know. Like, God. Wasn't me.
So, can you tell me more about Factor Freestyle?
I haven't. I've been on the show now for 2 years, and I can't figure it out. I think they called me one time. Dave Mirra called me 2 years ago, and he's like, "Yeah, we do a thing where we talk to people from back in the day about stories, and we got to find out if they're true or not." Like, they asked me, they were like, "Were you Factor Freestyle? Were you Matt Hoffman's bodyguard?" And I was like, "No, I was never a bodyguard, and I was never Matt's bodyguard." And then they started doing this whole thing. Does Bob Harrow over grip when he shakes your hand? So it just started off like questions like that. Now it's just me, Dave Norrie, Joe Sisman, and Todd Carter just talking about our weekends and just like talking about nothing. But we occasionally we have guests on, and then we just basically talk about old school BMX. You know what I mean? We have anybody we can find that'll pick up the phone. We had a good one about 6 months ago. We had Spike Jones on.
Wow.
If you know who Spike Jones is. We had Spike Jones on, and he was playing Luke Delaval. He was in disguise and in character as Luke Delaval, and he told Joe, you know who Joe Johnson is? The world famous Joe Johnson, the inventor of the tail whip air?
Yeah.
So we had Spike pretend that he was Luke Delaval, and he was yelling at Joe about pushing him off a ramp, and he broke his toe and couldn't ride anymore. And we had Joe going for like 40 minutes, and then at the end, Spike took his wig off and said, "It's Spike." So that was pretty funny.
That is pretty funny. Where's that at? If people wanted to like watch it,
it's on YouTube. It's like Factor Freestyle, and I think it's called The Grudge. Like, each one has a number, but I think that one's called The Grudge. But then Joe Sisman never clicked back on to like how we are right now. So like full screen, there was just a quote. There was just Rob Lowe quote because Dave loves Rob Lowe and likes to quote everything he does.
Yeah.
Like, and so the Spike Jones was only like this big, but it's
Oops.
so it's like, I mean, if you're if you're just driving around and you want to listen to it, it's pretty funny. And then Joe realized that he was being had, as we say. But it was good to get Spike on there. See, Dave Norrie knows everybody, so he knows Grant. He knows what's the movie trophy that he won? The little gold guy.
The Oscar?
He's a Oscar winner. Dave Norrie knows Oscar winners.
How wild.
Yeah.
I need to get Dave Norrie on here. I've been meaning to. And
Oh, you can get Dave. I mean, let me tell you something. If you can get me on, you can get Dave on. Dave can, Dave's a superstar, but he will talk. He's a man of the people.
Yeah.
All he wants to do is grow the sport and love.
Yep.
He's been growing the sport of BMX since 1982.
Yep.
And he still does it today. He has a flatland camp where he teaches kids how to ride flatland. Like, how cool is that? Dave Norrie Bike Academy, man. It's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. I'm trying, ever since Cornhucket last year, I've been trying to just giving him advice and stuff with YouTube when he needs it and trying to help him grow all of that. And he's awesome. Meeting him there, talking to him there, it's cool. And speaking of Dave, Stoney also mentioned the Back for More in 24 thing. Are you involved with that at all?
Yeah, I'm there for comic relief. I'm the one that I'm involved telling them that it's never going to happen. I'm giving them motivation. I'm going to look, it's never going to happen. But what their plan is they want to go and do, however many shows. I do think though now they have two that they're going to do, one in California and one in New York, or maybe one in New York and one in Germany or something. I think they do have two planned. They wanted to do like 6 or 7. My only concern is that the 3 riders in the show are all pushing 60.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Dave's 57, Ron's 56 or 7, and Brian Blyther is 55, maybe 56. So when you fall when you're 16, you get right up. When you fall when you're 50, everything breaks. Shit just comes apart in your body. So I was very worried about them doing a show. Because Ron will he'll be like, look, I'm going to do you do a 7-foot air and I'll do a 540 under you. It's kind of difficult to do when you're that age,
Yeah.
Doing double airs. But so yeah, they're working on, they had a GoFundMe thing to try and raise the money to get, everything that they need, and then we'll see what happens. They're working on it.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to them in that.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing if they do it. You can make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, they did a show like 10 years ago. They did a show in Germany and everybody loved it. It's like the original Haro team.
Mm-hmm.
And they even had Mike Dominguez there. Have you ever seen any footage of Mike Dominguez like back in the day?
I don't.
Do you know
so.
anything about him? Yeah, so like Mike Dominguez, like my best thing I thought with Mike Dominguez was I had a bunch of guys from Greenville come to my house like in 2003, and back in the day, when you rode ramps, it was just a quarter pipe. That was like the whole.
Yeah.
That was the whole day. There was a quarter pipe on each side, and Dominguez just sprints towards a quarter pipe and does like it's a 8-foot high quarter pipe. He does a legit 13-foot air on a 8-foot high, 8-foot wide quarter pipe. And I was like, look how good that is, man. I'm trying to think of the Rob Darden. Rob Darden was there. I said, Rob, look at that. Look how dope that is, dude, for 1988. He goes, 88? He goes, that'd be good today. Like how high he went. He did like a really high 540. But Mike Dominguez was when we were kids, Mike Dominguez was Dave Mirra. He was that was that caliber. Like it was Dominguez was the shit. Was totally the shit.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what does life in BMX look like for you these days?
The like nothing. I mean, just think about it, like what we're doing now. I'll talk about it all day, but I can't ride at all. I had a bad leg injury about 2 years ago, and that really, like I can't even bunny hop up a curb, and being like 700 pounds, that doesn't help. But I had a bad tear in my leg. I tore my quadricep and my patella apart, like snapped, and that took like 7 months to get back to like whatever. I can pedal a bike, but it fatigues really bad. It took me, yeah, it took me almost a month to get the operation to get it fixed because of COVID and snowstorms. They like to reattach that within a couple of days, and mine took like 28 days to get back. So I have some lingering stuff. But my friends, like the group of guys that I rode with when I was a kid, they all still ride. The guy Gary Pollock, he'll still go to skate parks in Jersey all the time. Brett Downs, he rides like every day. He goes to skate parks and rides flatland. Warren, another guy that I ride that when we were kids, he still goes to Woodward. And he's, they're like 50 some years old and they can still bust out, Resi helps, but they can still all go there and ride and stuff. So when I can, I go to like all that kind of stuff when they go ride. Any of the old school reunions I try and hit up, and then just like stuff like this, like just talking about BMX, and it's just fun. You know what I mean? It's fun to talk about stuff you know about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fun to tell stories and talk about it and see the guys from when you were a kid, and it's just fun. It's just all fun.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Damn it! What was I gonna say about all that? Crap. I can't. Maybe it was Pat Miller. Is Pat Miller a name?
Pat Miller. Is there a Pat Miller, a vert rider?
Yeah, okay, that's the guy who was at Rays this winter. It wasn't Gary Pollock.
Gary Pollock was at Chenga.
Man, maybe
Gary Pollock was at Chenga this time last year.
It was this winter.
This winter, there's a guy, Ron L, that we know that goes there.
Pat
Miller.
Let me see. Yeah, it wasn't Gary Pollock. I was thinking it was. I've seen Gary at the Woodward adult weekends when they would have him.
Right.
I was thinking I was confusing the two because Pat Miller was there and was shredding.
I think Did he ever ride? Did he ride was he around like in 2000? Or no, wait. There was a guy that rode for Schwinn and had blonde hair and was doing these shows, and he was a vert rider. Was he mainly like a vert rider? But then, or like park?
I think so, because they were both at Woodward adult weekends. Pat Miller and Gary Pollock kind of sort of look similar.
Yeah, I definitely know who the dude is. Yeah, because my friend Warren was telling me about him. We hung out with him once. He was doing shows at a fair, at like a state fair. Where is he from? Do you know where he's from?
I'm not sure, but this picture, is that going to show up? No, of course not. I gotta turn off the thing again. This picture was on his
there it is. I see
Instagram.
It. Yeah, that's like what? That's an 11-foot invert, probably.
And I'm assuming that's Louisville.
Or tabletop. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so he's like probably like 50 years old, right?
Something like that. I mean, there's this picture. Where is it at? Picture of him and Bestwick on his Instagram too.
That's him. Yeah, I know who that dude is. I totally know who that dude is. He used to have longer blonde hair when I knew him back in the day. Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah,
and if I remember, he's a really cool guy too. From what I remember.
Yep. Okay. So Paul Nani said, "I saw Miller at Rays this winter at the Rays Jam." Yeah. Okay. So we are talking about. I had him confused for a second. Yeah. Either way, though, you got anything other than the Buckeye BMX show that you're looking forward to in the future here?
I mean, I'm going there, and then there's a Huff Jam where dudes ride a flatland contest that I went to last year that was really fun. I'm gonna maybe go to that, and then other than that, I don't have anything planned. Usually stuff just like kind of pops up, and I'll be like, hey, let's go. we've been talking about going to the old school reunion in Woodward West for the past 10 years. We haven't gone. So we're gonna have to try and go out there just because I like picking on Bob Harrow and all the other famous people. I love just picking on everybody. So, yeah, those type of events I love because I just go up and it's just talking to everybody that you knew when you were a kid. Like, it's cool because the people that you'd see at contests when you're a kid, now you're all like adults and whatever. And then you're just all buddies. You know what I mean? Like, even a dude that you might not even have really ever spoke to back in the day, you can go up and talk to him for 2 hours about everything. You know, it's so much fun.
Kind of like me talking to you right now for 2 hours, and we'd never
exactly met. Yeah, we never met, and we're like, now I'll be like, oh yeah, dude, me and Brant, we're like best buddies, dude. Like, if you go to that Buckeye thing, it'll be like we've met before. You know what I mean? Even though we've never met. Like, that's the one thing I like about these things is that, you know, you'll be talking to people. Like, I never met Stoney. I've never seen him, but I talked to him, you know, on the show and stuff. So I feel like I know him. Like, when I talk to people, I'll be like, oh yeah, my friend Stoney, you know, like, it's like that kind of stuff. It's crazy.
That's why the internet's so cool.
It is. It's got its benefits, man.
It's the best, worst thing ever.
It is. It totally is. It's like, oh,
yeah.
It's like it's like a gun. A gun can kill you, of course, but then also if you're starving to death and you need to hunt, it can save your life. So
that's 100% it.
That's what the internet is, man. It can absolutely wreck you, and it can also, like, look at all the stuff we use your phone for, man. Like, now you don't even got to go to school. Everything's on your phone. You want to know something? Boom. How do I put brakes on my car? I have no idea how. You just YouTube it.
How do you want to put brakes on your bike? Oh, yeah. I got a video about it.
Got a video. How do you fix this? How do you make this? How do you get somewhere? That's the thing I like the best about like an iPhone and technology is GPS is my favorite thing in the world, because I don't know how many, like, we used to go to Rockville BMX when we were kids for any show, and we've been there 12 times, and all 12 times we got lost. We didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
Now you just get in your Tesla, you hit a button, and you take a nap, and then you wake up and you're there, you know?
Oh,
it's beautiful.
Yeah. It's the best, worst thing ever.
It's the best, worst thing. That could be a good shirt or a quote or something. It's the best, worst.
Well, I hope I get credit for it.
Well, if you have it on YouTube and you're the first one, you get it. Don't you have to, like, write it and then send it to you in the mail and then you own it, I think? Something like that.
I don't know. But
we'll ask Joe Sisman. He'll know. He knows all that kind of stuff.
He'll probably do it before me, and then...
Yeah, he just stole it from us, that bastard.
Oh, well. That's funny. But, Ray, we just talked for over 2 hours. 2 hours. It's way past my bedtime, dude. This is, like, crazy. Yeah. I love it. I love being up past my bedtime. Well, you know what I mean? I love talking to people like you who just love BMX and love talking about BMX and learning about things from the past from people who lived it. I love that. Yeah, it's the one thing I'm good at in life, man. I can talk about the old days. We're still living in the old days. We are. Yeah, so Buckeye BMX Show, June 3rd, somewhere in Dayton, Ohio. Just drive to Dayton and you'll probably stumble on it somehow. Yeah. And they have like a website and stuff, and you can go to Instagram, Buckeye BMX on Instagram, and it has all their stuff. I'm going to commit myself that if I have not committed myself already to something else, I'm going to be there. I'm going to bring my Dave Mirra. Bring your prints. And we're going to have the Dave Mirra cookie. Oh, my God. Somebody, whoever buys this, is going to have to eat the Dave Mirra cookie. And I'll film it. I'll be documenting the weekend, meet Ray in person, hang out with everybody, and it'll be an awesome time. Meet you if you show up, whoever you might be. Yeah, that person. Dave Mirra gum. You have Dave Mirra gum. Don't forget that. I love the Dave Mirra gum. If you have something neat that you don't think anyone would ever want to buy, I would love to put something of yours on a shelf.
Whatever. I'll give you. If you show up, I'll save you one of these. This is yours.
Deal. I'll be there. So, with that being said,
I'll give you this.
Oh my God.
I'll give you this.
That would be amazing. So, on that note, where can people find you on the internet if they want to keep up with what you're up to?
Probably Instagram is what I'm not on Facebook much, but I'm on Instagram a lot. And my Instagram account, I just have a million pictures of life, and I'm like 80% of it's like BMX stuff. My Instagram is just like one of these days, if you want to, we could just go through my Instagram and you pick a picture and I have a story about it.
Oh my God, that's part 2.
It would be, it would just be there isn't a picture. I probably have 1,000 pictures or more, and anything that has bikes on it, there's a story, which is crazy.
I would love that. I have your Instagram on the screen right now for anybody who wants to see it, and anybody who's listening, it's large_Ray, linked in the description wherever you're watching this. And I appreciate your time, man. We definitely have to do part 2 with the Instagram idea.
Oh, I'd love to. Like I said, I could do this all day. And you're a heck of a guy. You're fun to talk to. You know what I mean? This was really good. This was a great experience.
Thank you. I'm glad you had fun.
I'm down for whenever you want to do it again.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
So, hopefully I'll see you here in a couple months. And
yes,
Frog Bars.
I will save this for you.
God, I hope so.
It is in a mental note.
Deal.
It's yours.
Thank you. And
to
everyone else, check out Large Rare, anything. Factor Freestyle. He's done other video shows, podcasts. There's some run online from a Flatland thing back in the 80s where he's got smoke bombs coming out of his pegs. Like, what's that all about? You're going to have to go find it.
It's on there.
You're going to have to find it. On that note,